whatever the next season holds for our church, we're going to lean into those same things that have really been the legacy of this place all along, and that is that we want to be faithful to God's word and want to love people well.
When the Lord sent me to California, saying if you go together, you all will win thousands of people to the Lord. And I knew that was a word from God. And tens of people came to hear me.
I came to the Bay Area in response to a call from a church that then was named East Palo Alto Church of God. It was Easter Sunday, 1989, when I had my first Sunday with a church of 34 people. We met in a building we owned in East Palo Alto. 3 months later, I said to them, I don't think the church needs to be named by a city because we want to reach an entire region. And so I floated out the idea of Abundant Life Christian Fellowship. The church embraced it, and that's when we began this journey.
Well, we decided as a little church in 1989 to do what Paul said. We became all things to all men, that by all possible means we may save some. Our decision was to make it comfortable for the people we wanted to reach, so that there would be no barrier between them and the message of the love of God.
The mission is still alive and well. God is faithful. There were so many different ways that God proved faithful. In the hard times, God was there. When things did not work out, God was there. So it's the faithfulness of God that we appreciate so much.
Obviously, I've seen a lot of changes. We've changed buildings. We've gone from Saratoga to Coverly to Menlo Park and now to Leghorn. We've changed. I've seen staff change, but what hasn't changed is God. When you think about it being a church that is teaching the gospel, a church that wants to make disciples, a church that wants to lead others to Christ, a church that wants to be a loving church. These are values that were in the beginning years, the same values that we have today.
One of the biggest surprises was that the church not only grew, but it grew in a very multicultural way. When I came to East Palo Alto Church of God, which was a small black congregation, and I told them the Lord said, if we'll be faithful, we're going to see thousands come, I assumed that those thousands would all be black. Because I'm a black pastor, when we got to more than 7,000, this church was 45% non-black. It was the most incredible thing I had ever seen.
I recall vividly our first visit to Abundant Life, and it was at the Coverly site, and we were amongst the first white folks to show up. We were so warmly welcomed by, it was just wonderful. The reason there was so much diversity, socioeconomic, etc., it was that inclusiveness, that warmth that folks felt when they came here, and the beautiful conveyance of the gospel that just crossed barriers in terms of the outreach efforts, the folks coming to Christ. It was just beyond what you could plan, and it was beautiful, and still is beautiful. That same spirit, that same identity of this church remains true.
The main core value of our church is to know Jesus and to make him known. I specifically love how Family Ministries reflects the core values of our church. And we are not just giving kids Sunday school. We are providing a safe place for them to feel loved and known and experience Jesus on a different level. And I see that shaping their individual hearts, but I also see that shaping families, because they leave this place and their families are richer because of what they have learned and what they have experienced.
I grew up in this church from the time I was an infant back in 1995. And I remember being in Sunday school with my dad, and then I did go through the Walk Like Jesus baptism class, and that led to me being baptized. When I brought Jose, who was my then boyfriend, and once we got engaged, getting to celebrate with everyone here and tell all of our friends at the church.
Everyone very friendly, and there was several ones of them that spoke Spanish to me, and that made me feel very welcome.
My family went through some really hard times with my mom being ill, and everyone was there to support us through that entire journey. And I think now all these people are my family, and they fill in that gap now that she's not here with us. So it's real life for me. Like, this church keeps me going, and I'm grateful to them for that. Abundant Life is a place where we walk the walk. And I think we're not all about shiny objects and, putting on a show. It's about meeting together, worshiping God, knowing one another, challenging one another, and walking in His truth. And that's what makes us unique, and that's why I'm here and proud to be a part of Abundant Life.
I'm very excited for the future of ALCF, in part because I can look at the past of ALCF. And so when I look back and I see how God has been so faithful to this church through so many years, though we are stepping out again into the unknown, I have no doubt, because I can look back at His faithfulness, that He's going to continue to do the same thing. So we don't know what God's going to do, but we know what He's capable of doing. And so I'm super excited to see where He is going to take ALCF as we move on into a new season.
He has a plan and a purpose for your life.
I'm glad to know that this church is being led by a man of God and elders and leaders in general who are willing to think outside the box and willing to say, Lord, wherever you're leading, that's where we're willing to go, and we'll just trust you for the results. So that's really good news to know that this church remains centered on reaching the lost at any cost.
Because even though there is a cost, there is also an incredible gain. Because we will find in this life hope, joy, peace, and purpose that I will tell you cannot be found anywhere else. And not only that, but we are promised to spend eternity in His presence.